I'll be talking about BeUpright. This work was done in collaboration with UC San Diego and Michigan State University. So then, how BeUpright correct your posture? The answer is very effective and simple. What the? Who had a bad posture in this room? Please sit upright. Yeah, I can see you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
especially you. Yeah, right. Thanks. Now it works. So briefly, it was the how BeUpright works. If you had a poor posture, your French phone will be locked. You might think it is very weird, but yeah, right. It actually worked well if we designed it very carefully. So let's see more in detail. We'll start with the motivation, then proceed with each of these items in order. As you know, there are many behavior changing services like Lumo Lift, 8 Cups, and so on. And a common feature of these services is that they send the intervention to change one's behavior. Those interventions may be effective at first, but this will not last over time. There are lots of reasons why this is so. But one of the main reasons is that these interventions are sent automatically and repeatedly. This is called the habituation effect, meaning the more she is exposed to the intervention, the less attention she will pay to it. So we wanted to overcome this problem, and we looked for cases where the behavior change lasted over time. The cases we discovered to be effective over time were those with human interventions rather than the automated ones. It seems obvious when you think about it, because human intervention can provide a more dynamic feedback depending on the situation. So let's think about when we were elementary school students and you had to wake up for school every morning. Speaking for myself, an alarm clock would never wake me up. But my mother always got me out of bed through various means of nagging. And I believe some of you had a similar experience. So we thought of using human intervention to change one's behavior. But besides your mom, who can provide such active feedback over time? Yeah, you could ask friends for help. They may help you well at first, but it will not last over time. So one crazy idea we had to keep helpers active was whenever the user exhibited undesirable behavior, we would impose a kind of penalty on the helper instead of the user. The model we propose in our work is actually based on this crazy idea, and there are 3 parties involved: the target user, mobile system, and helper. When the target user performs undesirable behavior, then the mobile system gives an alert. If the target user doesn't correct the behavior, then the mobile system generates a discomforting event to the helper, such as locking her phone. Then the helper would give a direct feedback to the target user, like, hey, I'm going to come after you if you keep doing that. So in this model, there are 2 expected behavior changing effects. One is that the helper will give a direct feedback in order to stop her discomfort. And more importantly, the second one is that the target user will change his behavior spontaneously to avoid norm violation, which in this case is causing that discomfort. So we call it the Relational Norm Intervention Model, or RNI for short. And to test the RNI model, we made a target application, and for making that, we extracted design considerations through a design workshop. We conducted the design workshop with 16 people, targeting these 2 research questions. The first one was, which target behavior would be appropriate for using the RNI model? And the second one was, an appropriate form the discomforting event should take. First, we discussed which behaviors could be candidate for the RNI model. After considering benefits of behavior change and feasibility, we choose 4 candidate behavior. Possible candidates were walking an hour every day, drinking 8 cups of water a day, quitting smoking, and sitting in a good posture. In interviews, many participants argued that the effort for changing behavior should be reasonably small. They were willing to change posture or drink water to avoid discomforting helpers. But if they had to walk for an hour or not smoke at all for the same purpose, they said that they would rather give up altogether than try to change their behavior. So it was the first criteria which we used to rule out those 2 behaviors. And next criteria is the frequency of behavior. If the target behavior rarely occurs, it is hard to see the impact and effectiveness of the RNI model. So we chose sitting posture correction as the target behavior, which could be frequently observed in daily life. Next, we were curious about which discomforting event would be appropriate. First, we chose smartphones as the medium for discomforting event because they almost always accompany their users, and this was crucial for agitating the helper anytime and anywhere. Afterwards, we discussed how we could discomfort helpers through their smartphones, and we came up with two possible approaches: making a loud noise and locking the phone for a couple of minutes. And after discussion, most participants said they will not use the app if it's too annoying. So we excluded making a loud entirely. Also, locking the phone causes a similar level of annoyance, so instead, to lessen their discomfort, we gave helpers the authority to unlock their phones whenever they wanted. However, participants then commented that this discomforting event was too easy, so the target user wouldn't feel sorry at all for locking helper's phone because the helper could simply unlock it. Then discomforting event wouldn't play a significant role in motivating the target user. So we had to control the level of discomfort again. We increased it by giving helpers the authority to unlock the phones only when they shook the phone 10 times. To sum up, we found that discomforting event should be set at a level where the helper doesn't find it too annoying, yet the target users feel bad for causing them. So through this design workshop, we set the target behavior as correct sitting posture and the discomforting event as shaking the phone 10 times to unlock. With this in mind, we made a target application BeUpright, the sitting posture correction app. So let's check the short demo video.
This person is the target user who will correct the sitting posture.
I think I will say this. This person is the target user who will correct the sitting posture. When the target user's postures become poor, BeUpright gives her an alert. And if she ignores this alert, BeUpright locks the helper's phone as a discomforting event. Then the helper has to shake the phone to unlock it. After unlocking, the floating head of the target user shows up, and the helper can send feedback easily through the floating head. So it was the BeUpright. And let's talk a little bit about the implementation of BeUpright. For detecting poor posture, we use sensor tags from Texas Instruments, and it has an accelerometer sensor and Bluetooth module. For ease of wear, we use two small strong magnets to attach the sensor on a shirt. It is the same wearing method with a Lumolift, so you can easily put it on or off, as shown in the picture. Poor posture comes in many forms, but we target two most frequent ones, leaning backwards and forwards. We detect poor posture as follows. First, we calculate how much our body is leaning by computing the tilt angle. Whenever the tilt angle of a specific posture differs by more than 6 degrees from a good posture, we classify this as a poor posture. Of course, we need to define a personalized tilt angle value for good posture, which is unique for each person and her environment. So the target user can register her own good posture at any time through the calibration feature, like this. And this is how BeUpright works. If the target user leans more than 6 degrees compared to the registered good posture for 20 seconds, BeUpright gives a vibration alert. After receiving the alert, the target user should correct the posture within 10 seconds. And if she doesn't change the posture, the helper's phone will be locked as a discomfort event. When the helper's phone is locked, she has to shake the phone 10 times to unlock. After unlocking, a floating head of the target user shows up like this. And if the helper drags the floating head off the screen, a push message will be sent to the target user, like, "You just caused J discomfort." And if the helper double taps the floating head, it will launch a messaging app to give a direct feedback to the target user. So after this implementation, to investigate the impact and effectiveness of the RNI model, we conducted a 2-week-long evaluation study. We split the participants into two groups. Automated Alert Intervention, AAI for short, is the control group. Relational Norm Intervention, RNI for short, is the test group. But I would call it as machine-only intervention and human intervention for your easy understanding. The control group receives just automated alerts, and there is no helper. If the target user stays in poor posture for 20 seconds, the phone vibrates. If she doesn't correct poor posture within 10 seconds, her poor posture is simply logged onto the server. And the test group has the same logic as the control group, but it has a helper. So when the poor posture is logged on the server, the helper receives a discomforting event. The control group uses machine intervention, and there are 6 target users. The test group uses human intervention, and there are 6 target users and 6 helpers. Each target user chose and brought their own desired helper. During these 2 weeks, the target user wore the sensor during work hours. We logged any sensor-related data onto a remote server, such as sensor wear state and poor posture event. And throughout this study, we collected over 3,000 poor posture data points from target users. Okay. Oh, again, please see them right. Yeah, it is the last part. So, okay, it is the last part. Based on this collected data, we derived several interesting findings. At first, we were curious if the human intervention is actually better than the machine intervention for behavior change. The result shows that the human intervention had a higher correction rate than the machine intervention. And we were also curious about effects on intervention over time for both groups. So we looked into association between correction rate and days of MUs. In the machine intervention group, the correction rate was negatively associated with the days of MUs, while it was positively so for the human intervention group. This means that machine intervention had a tendency to be habituated, while human intervention was not. Machine intervention target users stated that they became insensitive to the alert after being exposed to them repeatedly. On the contrary, human intervention target users said, the fact that I was causing my partner discomfort bothered me more and more over time. The feedback from my partner was a constant reminder that she was continually discomforted. So then, which factors in the human intervention influenced posture correction? The human intervention provides 3 potential factors that influence target users' posture correction: the discomfort event, the push feedback the helper sent, and direct message sent by the helper. Before and after the experiment, we asked the target users which factor they expected to be the most influential. And this is the data that participants responded before the study. In this chart, yellow means it didn't affect to the posture correction, and black means it really affected to the posture correction. So before the study, participants expected to, that the helper's message feedback would be most influential factor. But after the study, the target users reported that wanting to avoid discomforting helpers played the biggest impact on their posture correction. So you can see the almost blank line next to the discomforting event in the post survey. Most of them stated that they didn't want to bother the helpers. One said, the fact that my posture might annoy my partner was always on my mind. To sum up, the most influential factor in human intervention was wanting to avoid discomforting helpers. Then, for human intervention participants, we looked at how the helpers and target users each perceived the discomforting event. After the experiment, we asked the target users about their expectation of how much the helpers will feel bothered by the discomforting event. Most of the target users expected the helper to be annoyed by the discomforting event, except one person. However, in contrast to the target user's concern, most of the helpers didn't find them annoying. One of the target users said the discomforting event came as a huge pressure, and that even a small discomfort to the helper would make her feel guilty. On the other hand, One of the helpers said it wasn't that burdensome. This finding implies that the discomforting event of BeUpright has a discomfort level in the desired range, where the helper doesn't find it too annoying, but the target users feel sorry for causing them. And this is the last finding. While looking into perception of the discomforting event, we made an interesting finding. That is, the helper felt connected with the target users, and the BeUpright raised the helper's awareness of the target user. One participant said it feels like inner ink because she can know her partner's status and it made her wonder what he's doing. Some pairs even responded that the discomforting event not only initiated their interaction, but went further to promote it. One remarked that it triggers further communication. So, to conclude, we evaluated the effectiveness of our model through the BeUpright. Through this evaluation, we gained many insights. So if you take nothing else away, just take one of these takeaway messages, and please refer to the paper for more details. Thanks.
We have time for one or two questions.